know what Tyson Fury was doing. I'm still completely lost for words. But give Ngannou his shot. I mean, you have to give him the respect. I mean, he's a boxing novice. Fury looked petrified from the first round. No one did anything. He lost the fight. So, unbelievable scenes. I cannot believe what we just witnessed.
What up, what up, what up? It's your boy, back again. Marlo knows basketball and Marlo knows boxing. Back at y'all with another one. I'm amped up for this one, man. I'm amped up for this one. After watching a great night of boxing last night, I'm not ashamed as a boxing fan, but Tyson Fury should be ashamed. He embarrassed boxing last night. That was pathetic. You were fighting an amateur. Francis Ngannou is an amateur. And Tyson Fury just went out there and arguably just lost to an amateur. I didn't score it for Francis Ngannou, but I didn't score it for Tyson Fury either. I didn't think it was a robbery. I thought it was a draw. I thought the fight was a draw. That's how I had it scored. But Tyson Fury, for all the trash that people have been talking, for all the trash he's been talking, it's crazy. They were saying he's the greatest heavyweight of all time. The greatest heavyweight of boxing history. And I've been upset about this. I've been upset about this, people. I've been upset about this whole thing. So, calling him the greatest heavyweight of all time. He never did anything to be the greatest heavyweight of all time. To be the greatest anything. And you trying to say he's greater than Ali? I'm offended. As a boxing fan, I was offended. You said this man was greater than Ali. He can barely beat an amateur. And all credit due to Francis Ngannou, man. Francis Ngannou is a great man. Not only is he a great fighter as far as an MMA fighter, but he's a great man. A great man. And he stood up against Dana White and against the UFC because they don't pay their fighters. And he stood up and took a stance and left while he was the heavyweight champion. While he was the number one guy in the heavyweight division, he stood up and left and threw the belt in the trash can and left because they weren't paying him what he deserved to be paid. And he proved it last night. His last fight in the UFC, defending the UFC heavyweight championship title, his last fight defending that title, he only made $600,000. $600,000, and that's a lot to the average person like me, but not for the best fighter in the UFC heavyweight division. He should have been making more. And last night, he went in there with Tyson Fury in a boxing match, boxed Tyson Fury, and made, from what I'm hearing, reports are saying $15 to $20 million for that fight. That's more than he made his whole UFC career in one boxing match. So this should be a lesson learned for a lot of UFC fighters, a lot of people that are, guys that are coming up, kids that are coming up, deciding what they want to do. They want to be an MMA fighter or they want to be a boxer. He made more in one boxing match than he made his whole UFC career. So boxing is the way to go, and that's how it is, man. The boxing is the way to go. It's the number one sport as far as combat sports. And that fight last night proved it because Francis Ngannou made more in one fight than he made his whole UFC career. So shout out to him, man. Shout out to him. And he did a great job exposing the so-called Gypsy King. We ain't going to call him that no more. You just got your butt kicked. Arguably got your butt kicked by an amateur. And yes, I scored it a draw, but a draw is getting your butt kicked when you're fighting an amateur. And the sad part is, we've watched UFC fighter after UFC, not even just UFC fighter, UFC champion after UFC champion come in and step into the boxing ring with an amateur and Jake Paul, an amateur from Cleveland, Ohio. That's where I'm from. Shout out to the land. But amateur Jake Paul is. And he demolishes every UFC champion that steps in the ring with him. Demolishes them like they're nothing. Like they're nothing. And Tyson Fury just got dropped and arguably lost to an amateur. But Jake Paul handles these guys with no problem. But Tyson Fury fights one. He does the same thing that Jake Paul's been doing and made a whole career out of, demolishing UFC fighters in the boxing ring. Tyson Fury, so-called, and I kept hearing people, and I've argued this with hella people that are trying to say he's the greatest heavyweight of all time. The greatest no heavyweight in boxing history can beat him. No heavyweight in boxing history. You don't even got to go to boxing. You can go grab an amateur. An amateur, somebody that's never had a boxing match ever in their life. And he can't even convincingly beat them. But he's greater than Ali though. And yes, it was mostly casuals that were saying, people that obviously don't know much about the sport of boxing, that were saying Tyson Fury was the greatest heavyweight of all time, completely disrespecting Muhammad Ali, disrespecting Joe Louis, disrespecting Rocky Marciano, Lennox Lewis, Evander Holyfield. The list goes on and on. Just completely disrespecting the greats and saying that Tyson Fury was greater than them, even though Tyson Fury only has two notable opponents, one being Deontay Wilder, who's completely unskilled, just started boxing at the age of 20, and a 40-year-old Klitschko that got knocked out in his very next fight against Anthony Joshua. Those are his two best opponents, but he's the greatest of all time. He's greater than Ali. Oh, why? They ask you why. Because he's 6'9". He's tall. That's the reason. He don't look very tall here. And this is an amateur. Francis Ngannou's first boxing match, he's knocking out what y'all was trying to say is the greatest of all time. Come on, man. Stop with the nonsense. And I've been saying that. Stop with the nonsense. Y'all all owe Muhammad Ali and every single heavyweight champion there's ever been before Tyson Fury an apology. You owe him an apology. You owe all of them an apology. Because you completely disrespected him. Just disrespected all these people just because he's 6'9". He's a 6'9" Homer Simpson. And we saw it last night.
Honestly, this is maybe a hot take about Tyson. I think that Tyson is the greatest heavyweight ever. I think he's the greatest, which makes him probably the, I don't know.
What's the boxing expert saying though? What do you think?
I agree with that one.
Yeah? Do you mean that in the sense
For heavyweight, yes.
if they all fought,
If they all fought each other, I don't think anybody could beat Tyson.
because of right? Okay. Yeah.
I think the size, the skill, now the power. Early in his career, he didn't see this power, and all of a sudden, like, he's just fucking dropping
I think Usyk could give him some trouble.
Oh, he's so small, dude.
He's not.
Usyk's what, 6'2"?
No, but when you meet Tyson, although he's like, he has weaknesses as well though. Like he's big, but if you watch Anthony Joshua versus Alexander Usyk, and then right afterwards watch Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury, how slow the Fury Wilder fight went is alarming. You realise the pace that Usyk sets is light speed. So I'm not saying that Usyk would beat Tyson, but I think he'll give him a lot of problems. This is the fittest heavyweight we've ever seen. No one is as fit as Usyk. No one, not at that size. Like, he's 6'3" as well. People think he's a small man. He's massive.
But what happens when Tyson starts leaning on him?
Shut the hell up, you casual. Shut up, you casual. You don't know nothing about boxing. What happens when he starts leaning on him? What does that matter? What does that matter? You're crowning him just because he's tall? That's your whole reasoning? Because he's tall? Not because he's skilled? He couldn't lace Ali's boots. And you were saying he's the greatest of all time because he's tall? Get out of here, man. Stop letting these casuals talk about the sport of boxing. Stop letting these casuals... Andrew Schultz is a brilliant... Take the brilliant out of it. You're just an idiot. Don't talk about the sport of boxing, you casual. You don't know nothing about boxing. Tyson Fury is greater than Ali. Boy, Shut the F up forever.
Johnny, I gotta say, I really think, and I mean this, Tyson, I think you're the greatest heavyweight that ever lived. And I'm a boxing historian. I studied this closely. When you put together all your skills, and plus your heart and your ability to recuperate, and how you can move around so well at your size, there's no one that could have beaten you in any era.
Wow, that's amazing.
People go, oh, it's not true. It's totally true.
It's a complete and total lie. Sylvester Stallone, aka Rocky Balboa. You are a fake boxer. Obviously, you don't know nothing about boxing either. You call yourself a boxing historian? You said nobody could have ever beaten him? He just lost. He just arguably lost to an amateur in their first boxing match ever. Are you kidding me? An amateur. Not even an amateur. He has no amateur fights. He has no boxing fights at all. And he just arguably beat Tyson Fury, but nobody could have beat him throughout history? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Stop it. The glazing of Tyson Fury has been out of control for so long. And I'm so glad Francis Ngannou put an end to it. I'm so glad he just put an end to it. And yeah, Tyson Fury did embarrass boxing. And so we got to take that one on the chin. You know what I'm saying? For us to come back against the UFC guys that are going to say, well, Francis Ngannou went in there and beat the best heavyweight. Well, I mean, we got Ray Mercer, who beat the former heavyweight champion, former UFC heavyweight champion in Tim Sylvia. So, you know, we still got that to fall back on him. But y'all shouldn't have been calling Tyson Fury the greatest. He's not even the greatest of this era. Not even the greatest of this era. I got Alexander Usyk beating him. And they're fighting next. So we're going to see the first undisputed champion since Lennox Lewis. It's going to be Alexander Usyk. And not only was it casuals that were calling Tyson Fury the greatest of all time, we had respected guys like Shakur Stevenson, one of the best fighters alive today. One of the best fighters alive today, Shakur Stevenson, said that Tyson Fury was the greatest heavyweight of all time and completely crapped on Ali and said Ali couldn't do nothing with him. Ali couldn't do nothing with him, but Francis Ngannou arguably just beat him. Francis Ngannou arguably just beat him, but Ali couldn't do nothing with him. What are you talking about, Shakur?
I mean, I'm just going to say this, and people going to hate me for saying this because I got to be real. I feel like with Tyson Fury's size and weight and his boxing skills, he's one of the hardest fighters to beat ever, like of all time, just because of the fact that he's so, like, he's tall, like, he got skills like a welterweight, so I think he'll give any fighter in our pastime trouble.
Even like Ali or Tyson?
Ali was what, 220?
Yeah.
He was 220, like, Tyson Fury 6'9", 280, like, that was like, it's fighting a cheat code, like, that's not fair. Like, you feel me?
Eat your words, Shakur Stevenson. Eat your words. You and everybody else that tried to say that Tyson Fury was the greatest heavyweight of all time and completely just disrespecting Ali and crapping on Ali's legacy. Eat your words. Eat your words. Just because a man is taller than you, that don't make him better than you. You should know that. You should know that. People don't have common sense anymore. Just because somebody's taller and they're fighting currently and it's the last fight you just saw, that's the greatest thing you ever saw. We just saw that debunked last night. And that's what makes me so happy. That's what makes me so happy. We just saw an amateur prove you wrong. An amateur. Somebody that's never boxed a boxing fight a day in their life. Amateur or professional. Just arguably beat the guy that you tried to say that Ali that was better than Ali. And now Shakur Stevenson had to answer. A fan on Twitter added him and said, I mess with you, bro. But all that Fury beats Ali-ish again, Crying, laughing emoji. Ali accepts your apology. Shakur Stevenson responds, yeah, I gotta take my L's on the chin. I'm with you. I was banking on size. I was banking on the size for real. But I don't know what he was on today. He was on the same thing that he's on. Just because a man bigger than you don't mean he better. Since when does being bigger automatically make you better? You said he had the skills of a welterweight. Where? When? Tyson Fury's always been slow as molasses. Come on now, bro. He's always been hella slow. He's built like a bowling pin. He's a 7-foot bowling pin. And you talking about he's like a welterweight. A welterweight how? Where? When? Bottom line is, the true all-time greats of the heavyweight division should be offended. Lennox Lewis should be offended. Evander Holyfield should be offended. Offended. Evander Holyfield would have destroyed Tyson Fury. Rocky Marciano should be offended. He's rolling over in his grave. You think Rocky Marciano would have ever lost to an amateur? Hell no. Joe Louis is offended. You think Joe Louis would have ever lost to an amateur? Somebody that doesn't have any boxing fights ever. Amateur or professional. You think Joe Louis would have ever lost to a guy like that? And you sitting up here just putting Tyson Fury over him too. He's just over everybody. He's the greatest heavyweight of all time. Just disregard the whole legacy of boxing. See, that's why boxing is in the state it's in. Because you keep disrespecting the sport. Stop it. Stop disrespecting the sport. Stop disrespecting our legends. Tyson Fury was never on their level. That should have never been a conversation. When you look at Tyson Fury's resume, it can't even be compared to a fighter like Chris Bird. Chris Bird is mid as hell. Mid as hell. Mid. He's nowhere near any type of GOAT list. But when you look at his resume versus Tyson Fury's resume, he has a better resume than Tyson Fury. But you got guys like Shakur Stevenson and casuals like Sylvester Stallone trying to say that Tyson Fury is greater than Ali. Eat your words, man. Eat your words. We all know who the greatest of all time is.
Wait. Is this on close? Utah is alive right now. Everybody stop talking now. Attention. I told you, all of my critics, I told you all that I was the greatest of all time. When I beat Sunday Liston, I told you today I'm still the greatest of all time.
Greatest of all time? Tyson Fury's not even the greatest of this era. Alexander Usyk is the greatest of this era. He's the greatest heavyweight of this era. And people trashed him for getting knocked down by Daniel Dubois. And they said, oh, he should have lost the fight. Even though the referee said that it was a low blow and gave him time to recover. And you say, oh, it was a knockout. Saying, oh, if the referee called it a legal blow, he wouldn't have got up. How do you know? You just guessing. Obviously, Alexander Usyk dominated that whole fight from start to finish. He dominated from the beginning to the end. He got hit with a low blow, and they said it was on the belt. It's arguable whether or not that was a low blow. The referee called it a low blow, so it was a low blow. Alexander Usyk got up and continued to dominate that fight. Tyson Fury dominated none of that fight yesterday. None of it. None of it. He not only got dropped, he was completely scared. And he had no control of the fight. No control of the fight at all. No control of the fight. Alexander Usyk dominated and handled Daniel Dubois the whole time. The fight was never in doubt until that low blow. You can argue whether or not it was a low blow or not. If they didn't call it a low blow, it would have just been a knockdown. It would have just been a knockdown, and he would have knocked him out. He would have got up and knocked Daniel Dubois out just like he did. Just like he did. And everybody knows that. And Daniel Dubois is not an amateur. That wasn't his first boxing match, but it was Francis Ngannou's first boxing match. Tyson Fury just arguably lost to an amateur. Arguably lost. Alexander Usyk arguably got knocked down by Daniel Dubois, who's not an amateur. But all these Usyk haters and Tyson Fury meat writers were trying to say that Alexander Usyk lost that fight. Get out of here. He dominated that whole fight. Something Tyson Fury couldn't even do against an amateur. We all know who the greatest of this era is, and his name is Alexander Usyk.
Think, man.
I not think.
You love it?
I want eat, I want sleep.
Did you think Tyson won in your opinion? Did he win fight? You don't know. Maybe not, huh?
I think it's show.
You think it's show like wrestling?
23 December.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So what do you got to do to win now? Does it give you more confidence to win against Tyson Fury?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I have no idea.
Right, because MMA fighter knocked him down. You a real boxer.
Listen,
you can do more.
it's world champion MMA. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a hard punch. But element surprise. Maybe Tyson Fury not serious. Oh, it's MMA fighter, blah, 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 blah. I don't know.
Were you surprised by the knockdown?
For me?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course I'm surprised.
Yeah. Did you get worried?
Part of you that was worried that the
Listen,
fight
I'm
might
watching knockdown. I say, whoa, Francis, be careful, please. Yeah. I say, Tyson, jab, move, jab. I say, stop video, please.
Thanks,